Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The sun beat down on Thermon 7 like an angry god, casting shimmering heat waves across the dusty marketplace. Ray Dorman sprawled beneath a half-burned canopy, his lanky body stretched out on a makeshift lounger cobbled together from discarded shipping crates. His threadbare yellow jacket, faded from years of abuse, served as his pillow, bunched underneath his head at an awkward angle that would give most people neck cramps. Not Ray. The man could sleep anywhere. Vendors shouted across the marketplace, haggling with customers over prices of everything from contraband engine parts to questionable street food. The babble of a dozen different alien languages merged into a chaotic symphony that somehow failed to disturb Ray's slumber. A small puddle of drool formed at the corner of his mouth. "Hey, lazy human, you promised those thermo sausages by noon." The gravelly voice belonged to Grox, a four-armed reptilian merchant whose temper ran as hot as Thermon 7's twin suns. Grox kicked the edge of Ray's makeshift bed, sending a vibration through the rickety structure. Ray's eyes remained closed. 5 more minutes. "You said that 2 hours ago." Grox slammed one of his lower fists against a nearby post, causing the entire canopy to shudder precariously. "My customers are waiting." Ray finally opened one eye, squinting against the harsh light. "Your customers can wait another hour. Quality takes time, Grox." "Quality?" Grox hissed, his forked tongue flicking between needle-sharp teeth. "You're selling expired meat tubes you stole from the cargo hold of a fourth-rate freighter." Ray sat up slowly, stretching his arms overhead with an exaggerated yawn. "Not stolen, salvaged, and they're not expired, just temporarily misplaced from their cooling unit." His stomach growled loud enough for Grox to hear, prompting the reptilian to roll his yellow eyes. "You're going to eat half my inventory again, aren't you?" "Can't sell on an empty stomach," Ray said, patting his lean belly through his sweat-stained shirt. "Business advice, free of charge." After Grox stormed off, Ray rummaged through a battered cooler beside his lounger and pulled out one of the thermo sausages, a dubious tube of mystery meat that glowed faintly orange. He took a massive bite, closing his eyes in simple pleasure despite the questionable origin of his meal. "Breakfast of champions," he mumbled through a mouthful of food. Life on Thermon 7 wasn't complicated, at least not for Ray. His rusted cargo container at the market's edge provided shelter. His occasional business ventures, mostly dealing in items that mysteriously fell off transport ships, provided enough credits for food. When he wasn't eating or hustling, he was sleeping. It was a perfect system. The market began to quiet as the day reached its hottest point. Even the most determined vendors retreated to cooler spaces, leaving Ray almost alone beneath his pathetic shade. He finished his third thermo sausage and wiped greasy hands on his pants. "Perfect nap conditions," he murmured, settling back and pulling his yellow jacket over his face to block the light. He was seconds from drifting off when a shadow fell across him. Ray ignored it, hoping whoever it was would go away. "Excuse me," came a melodic, feminine voice. "Are you the human they call Ray Dorman?" Ray didn't move the jacket from his face. "Depends who's asking. If you're with Galactic Revenue Service, then no. If you're looking to buy something, then maybe. If you're giving away free food, then absolutely." "I was told you know your way around this sector." The voice moved closer. "I need a guide." "Not interested in work that requires standing," Ray mumbled through his jacket. "Try the employment center. It's that way." He pointed vaguely without looking. "I'll pay handsomely." Ray sighed and finally removed the jacket from his face. The complaint forming on his lips died instantly. Before him stood the most striking alien woman he'd ever seen. Her skin was a rich shade of violet that seemed to shimmer slightly in the harsh sunlight. Large, luminous eyes, silver with flecks of what looked like actual starlight, gazed down at him from a face with delicate, almost feline features. Her body was curvy in all the right places, accentuated by a form-fitting bodysuit made of some material that shifted colors like an oil slick when she moved. "Huh?" was all Ray managed. The woman smiled, revealing pearly teeth that seemed too perfect to be natural. "I am Lixa Zaire of the Astral Nebula Confederation. And you?" She looked him up and down with obvious disappointment. "You are shorter than I expected." Ray was still lying down. "Most people are taller when they stand up," he said, making no effort to do so. "What do you want, Lady Nebula?" "Astral Nebula Confederation," she corrected primly. "And I seek the one who can navigate the black markets of this system without detection." "Sounds like work," Ray said, yawning. "Boring conversation anyway." He started to pull his jacket back over his face. In a flash, Lixa reached down and snatched the jacket away. "This is important, human. So's my nap." Ray glared at her, then at his confiscated jacket. "Give that back." "Not until you listen." She held it away from him. Ray sat up with an exaggerated groan. "Fine, you've got 3 minutes. Then I'm getting back to my very busy schedule of doing absolutely nothing." Lixa seemed to consider her next move carefully. Then, to Ray's complete surprise, she stepped forward and thrust her chest toward him. "What the hell are you doing?" Ray backed away, nearly falling off his makeshift bed. "This is how we greet potential allies in my culture," she explained with complete seriousness. "You must acknowledge my melons, or it will be a grave insult to my entire lineage." Ray stared at her chest, then at her face, trying to determine if this was some elaborate scam. "Your melons?" "Yes. This is the proper translation in your language, I believe. You must greet them respectfully, or our negotiation cannot proceed." She thrust her chest forward again, expectantly. Ray had seen a lot of weird customs in his time on Thurman 7, but this one took the prize. Still, he wasn't one to cause interplanetary incidents if he could avoid them. With a massive yawn that undercut any potential awkwardness, he lazily waved in the direction of her chest. Hello there. Melons. Nice to meet you." Lixa's expression shifted from serious to confused. "That's not how most react." "Lady, I've seen weirder stuff before breakfast. Is this negotiation over now? Because my jacket and I have a date with unconsciousness." Before Lixa could respond, the sky above them fractured with a sound like shattering glass. The market's few remaining vendors looked up in terror as the pale blue atmosphere seemed to tear open, revealing a swirling vortex of darkness beyond. "What the—" Ray began, finally standing up. A blinding object streaked from the tier in reality, leaving a trail of golden light as it plummeted directly toward them. "Move!" Lixa shouted, diving away. Ray's response was uniquely his own. As the object accelerated toward him, his body, conditioned by years of avoiding responsibility, simply shut down. He yawned once, his eyes grew heavy, and he actually began to nod off while standing. The object, a glowing artifact that resembled a metallic orb with intricate, shifting patterns across its surface, slammed into Ray's chest with enough force to knock him backward. Instead of crushing him, it seemed to phase partially into his body, embedding itself in his sternum. For a single, silent moment, nothing happened. Then pain exploded through Ray's body as golden light erupted from his eyes and mouth. The ground beneath the marketplace trembled. Makeshift stalls collapsed. Vendors and shoppers fled screaming. Lixa stared in horror, her violet skin paling to lavender. "No! Not now! Not here!" As Ray collapsed to his knees, the orb pulsed with power. Each beat sent waves of energy rippling outward, shattering nearby windows and overloading electrical systems. The market's ancient lighting grid sparked and died, plunging everything into the harsh, natural light of Thurman 7's suns. "Oh no," Lixa whispered, crawling toward Ray as the ground continued to shake. "You're the bearer now." Ray couldn't respond. The pain was overwhelming, consuming every thought. Just before consciousness slipped away, he had one last, perfectly Ray-like thought. This is going to seriously cut into my nap time. Everything went black. Ray dreamed of stars being born and dying, of galaxies spinning through the void, of powers beyond comprehension. In the dream, he floated naked in space, yet felt no cold, needed no air. The universe whispered secrets to him in languages that predated time itself. "Wake up, bear." The voice wasn't part of the dream. It was real, feminine, insistent. "Wake up, quickly." Ray's eyes fluttered open. He lay on soft cushions inside what appeared to be a makeshift tent. Shafts of reddish light filtered through seams in the fabric, suggesting it was now late afternoon on Thurman 7. The pain in his chest had subsided to a dull throb. He looked down and nearly screamed. The artifact, golden and intricate, protruded halfway from his chest, as if someone had shoved a metallic fist into his sternum. Yet there was no blood, no wound. It was as if the orb had always been a part of him. What the hell? Ray tried to pull the artifact out, but touching it sent jolts of electricity up his arm. "Don't!" Lixa appeared at his side, grabbing his wrist. "You'll kill yourself." "Pretty sure having a metal ball stuck in my chest is already killing me," Ray groaned, falling back onto the cushions. "What happened? What is this thing?" Lixa sat beside him, her luminous eyes filled with a mixture of awe and concern. The chronosphere, an artifact of immense power, lost for millennia, until today. Ray touched the edges of the sphere more carefully this time. It felt warm, almost alive. "Get it out." "I can't. No one can." Lixa's voice lowered to a reverent whisper. "It chose you." "Well, it chose wrong," Ray said, attempting to sit up despite the discomfort. "I didn't sign up for any of this." The sphere selects its bearer. It is not a choice, but destiny. Lixa placed a cool hand on his forehead, checking for fever. "You are now my husband by prophecy." Ray choked on nothing. "You're what now?" "The ancient texts are clear. When the sphere merges with flesh, bonded in the light of twin suns, a union shall be forged between bearer and witness." She gestured to herself. "I am the witness. You are the bearer." "Lady, I just met you," Ray protested, struggling to stand. "And I'm not marrying anyone, especially not because some metal ball decided to take up residence in my ribcage." Lixa helped him up, her touch surprisingly strong despite her slender build. "The prophecy has been fulfilled. The one who can sleep in fire shall awaken the gods of passion." "Sleep in?" Ray paused, remembering how he'd actually started to doze off as the artifact hurtled toward him. "That's not sleeping in fire. That's just my horrible survival instincts." "You were falling asleep as the sphere approached. A blaze of celestial fire," Lixa insisted. "No ordinary being could remain so calm in the face of cosmic power." "It's not calm. It's narcolepsy. Or laziness. Take your pick." Ray finally managed to stand on shaky legs. "Look, no offense, but I don't do prophecies, destinies, or marriages. I do naps, food, and the occasional under-the-table business deal." He looked around the tent, which was surprisingly well appointed with plush cushions, strange artifacts, and what appeared to be advanced technology disguised as primitive decorations. "Where are we anyway? How long was I out?" "My temporary dwelling, just outside the market district. You've been unconscious for 6 hours, Lixa explained. "I had to move quickly. The sphere's manifestation will have attracted attention, dangerous attention." As if summoned by her words, a low rumble shook the ground. Ray stumbled, catching himself on a support pole. "What now?" he groaned. Lixa rushed to the tent's entrance and peered outside. Her body tensed. "They're already here." "Who's here?" The cult of eternal flame. They've hunted the sphere for centuries. She turned back to Ray, her expression deadly serious. And now they'll hunt you. The rumble grew louder. The sphere in Ray's chest began to pulse with light, matching the rhythm of his accelerating heartbeat. Great, Ray muttered, looking around desperately for his yellow jacket. Just great. All I wanted was a nap. Now I'm a galactic fugitive with a disco ball in my chest and an alien wife I didn't ask for. He spotted his jacket draped over a chair and grabbed it, wincing as the movement caused the sphere to shift painfully. We need to leave, Lixa said, gathering supplies with practiced efficiency. Now. I'm not going anywhere until someone explains exactly what this thing is and why it decided to make me its new home, Ray insisted, even as he shrugged on his jacket. The familiar comfort of the worn fabric gave him a momentary sense of normalcy. The chronosphere is a key, Lixa explained hurriedly, to rewriting reality itself. In the wrong hands, it could unmake the universe. The prophecy says only the true bearer can control its power. And you think that's me? Ray laughed bitterly. Lady, I can barely control my own sleep schedule. The ground shook again, more violently this time. Outside, shouts and the distinct sound of energy weapons pierced the air. The prophecy doesn't lie, Lixa said, grabbing Ray by the arm. Now move, husband, unless you wish to discover how many ways the cult can torture a bear before death. Ray's stomach growled loudly, interrupting the tension. Any chance we can grab food on the way? Lixa stared at him in disbelief before a reluctant smile tugged at her lips. The ancient text did mention the bearer's eternal hunger. That's not prophecy. That's just me, Ray said, but he allowed himself to be pulled toward a back exit. Fine, I'll come with you, but I'm not your husband. This isn't destiny, and as soon as I figure out how to get this thing out of my chest, I'm going back to my nap. As they slipped out of the tent into the fading light of Thurman 7's evening, the sphere pulsed once more, sending a wave of warmth through Ray's body. Something ancient and powerful stirred within him, a feeling so foreign he couldn't name it. For the first time in years, Ray Dorman was completely, utterly awake. The chronosphere pulsed against Ray's sternum as he sprinted through Thurman 7's back alleys, each step sending jolts of pain through his chest. Lixa moved ahead with inhuman grace, her violet skin almost luminescent in the fading twilight. This way, she hissed, ducking beneath a low-hanging maze of pipes. Ray followed, wheezing. I wasn't built for running, he complained, nearly tripping over a discarded power converter. I was built for horizontal surfaces and snack foods. Behind them, the shouts of the cult of eternal flame grew louder. Their chants echoed off metal walls. The bearer must be cleansed. The sphere must be released. They emerged into a crowded transit hub where dozens of species jostled for position near boarding gates. Lixa grabbed Ray's arm, pulling him into the chaos. Blend in, she instructed, adjusting his yellow jacket to partially conceal the glow emanating from his chest. Try to look less chosen. Fantastic advice, Ray muttered. Any other helpful tips? Try not to have a mystical artifact melded to your rib cage. A group of robed figures entered the transit hub, their faces concealed beneath crimson hoods. The crowd instinctively parted for them. Cultists, Lixa whispered, pushing Ray toward a narrow maintenance corridor. We need to get off-planet. Now. Off-planet? Ray balked. Listen, alien wife I never agreed to. My life is here. My container home. My thermo-sausage business. My nap spot. Your death will also be here if we don't leave, Lixa countered, keying a complex sequence into a rusted access panel. A hidden door slid open. Unless you have a better plan for removing the sphere. Ray patted the glowing protrusion. Can't we just, find a really good surgeon? The sphere, Is melded to your life force, Lixa explained as they hurried through the maintenance tunnel. Removing it would kill you, but I know someone who might help us understand it better. An artifact dealer on Craxus Prime. Great, Ray sighed. Let me guess. Craxus Prime is a hellish death planet filled with monsters and extremely uncomfortable sleeping accommodations. Lixa's lips quirked into an almost smile. Only the northern hemisphere. The southern half has quite comfortable beds. Then what are we waiting for? South Craxus Prime, here we come. 2 days later, Ray stared at the grotesque, bulbous face of Zortek, Craxus Prime's most notorious artifact dealer. The alien's multiple eye stalks swiveled independently, each examining the sphere from a different angle. Extraordinary, Zortek wheezed through a breathing apparatus. Simply extraordinary. The chronosphere, embedded in a human. The prophecies were true. Yeah, prophecies, destiny, galactic importance. Ray waved dismissively. Can you get it out or not? They sat in Zortek's cluttered shop, surrounded by objects that defied classification. Some appeared to be ancient weapons. Others pulsed with energies that made Ray's teeth ache. Lixa stood by the door, keeping watch. Zortek chuckled, a sound like gravel in a disposal unit. Remove it? Foolish human. The sphere has chosen you. It's a bond deeper than mere physical attachment. Then what good are you? Ray stood, frustrated. We came halfway across the sector for this. I didn't promise removal, Lixa reminded him. I promised information. Zortek nodded, eye stalks bobbing enthusiastically. And information I have. The chronosphere is one of 7 cosmic artifacts created before the dawn of civilization. It contains the power to rewrite reality, to unmake and remake existence according to the bearer's will. Cool, Ray said flatly. How about you take it, and you can rewrite reality so I have a lifetime supply of thermo sausages and the galaxy's most comfortable pillow. If only it were so simple, Zortek sighed. The sphere can only be wielded by its chosen bearer. In anyone else's possession, it remains dormant, or destroys them. Ray collapsed back into his chair. So I'm stuck with this thing. Until you fulfill your purpose, yes. And what exactly is my purpose? Zortek's eyes swiveled to Lixa, then back to Ray. That is for you to discover, bearer. Fantastic, Ray groaned. Vague cosmic destiny. Just what I always wanted instead of a nap. The conversation ended abruptly when the shop's security system blared to life. Outside, red-robed cultists approached, weapons drawn. They found us, Lixa hissed, drawing a sleek blaster from beneath her clothing. Zortek scuttled toward a hidden panel in the wall. There's an escape tunnel. Go, I'll delay them. But, Ray began. Go, Zortek insisted. The fate of reality itself depends on you, bearer, though I cannot fathom why the sphere would choose such a specimen. Hey, Ray protested as Lixa dragged him toward the hidden exit. I have qualities. I'm very good at sleeping. A talent the universe clearly values, Zortek replied dryly, before sealing the panel behind them. The escape tunnel deposited them in a bustling marketplace similar to Thermin 7AS, but larger and filled with even stranger specimens of galactic life. Lixa guided Ray through the crowd, constantly checking behind them. We need credits, she said, and a ship. Ray's stomach growled loudly. And food, definitely food. Saving the universe requires calories. They found a noodle stand wedged between a contraband weapons dealer and a fortune teller. Ray ordered the largest bowl available, eating with single-minded focus while Lixa planned their next move. We could try the pawn shops, she suggested. See if anyone would buy some of my equipment. Ray looked up from his noodles, a sudden thought occurring. Or we could pawn this. He tapped the sphere protruding from his chest. The artifact that's melded to your life force? The cosmic key to reshaping reality? Lixa stared at him. That's your plan? Worth a shot. Ray shrugged, slurping down the last of his noodles. Maybe we just need to find the right buyer. To his surprise, Lixa didn't immediately shoot down the idea. It's so foolish it might actually work, temporarily. The sphere cannot be separated from you, but perhaps someone would pay to study it while it remains in your possession. Exactly. Ray grinned. We get some credits, buy passage off-world, and figure out the rest later. Classic Ray Dorman problem solving. The noodle vendor, a diminutive creature with 6 arms that worked in perfect coordination, leaned over the counter. "Excuse me," she said in a surprisingly melodic voice. "I couldn't help overhearing. You have the chronosphere?" Ray tensed. "Maybe. Who's asking?" "Someone who can help," the vendor replied, her large eyes blinking rapidly. "The name's Nix. I know a collector who would pay handsomely for even an hour with the sphere." Lixa's hand moved to her concealed weapon. "And how does a noodle vendor know about the chronosphere?" Nix smiled, revealing rows of tiny, sharp teeth. "I wasn't always a noodle vendor, dear, and Craxus Prime attracts those with complicated pasts." Ray finished his bowl and slid it forward. "How much are we talking?" "Enough for a ship," Nix said. "My shift ends in an hour. Meet me at Docking Bay 17 if you're interested." After she moved to serve another customer, Lixa gripped Ray's arm. "We cannot trust her." "Of course not," Ray agreed. "But we need credits, and I need to try everything to get this thing out of me. What's the worst that could happen?" "Death, universal collapse, eternal torment," Lixa listed matter-of-factly. "Besides that—" "Fine," Lixa conceded. "But at the first sign of trouble, we run." Docking Bay 17 turned out to be abandoned except for a decrepit courier vessel that had clearly seen better centuries. Nix waited beside it, no longer wearing her vendor's apron but instead dressed in sleek, form-fitting armor. "You came," she sounded surprised. "Good. My client is eager to meet you." "Where is this client?" Lixa demanded, hand never straying far from her blaster. "Not far," Nix assured them. "But we must hurry. The cult has spies everywhere." Ray studied the ship dubiously. "This heap can actually fly." "Appearances deceive," Nix smiled, pressing a sequence on her wrist device. The ship's ramp extended smoothly. "She's faster than she looks." Inside, the ship proved to be much more advanced than its exterior suggested. Sleek consoles lined the walls, and the cockpit featured technology Ray had only seen in high-end Federation vessels. "Nice setup for a noodle vendor," he remarked. "As I said," Nix replied coolly, "complicated past." She guided them to a small conference room and gestured for them to sit. "My client will join us shortly. In the meantime, perhaps you'd like to explain how a human from Thermin 7 came to be bonded with the most powerful artifact in the galaxy." "Cosmic clerical error," Ray suggested, sprawling into a chair. The journey had exhausted him, and his eyelids grew heavy. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong chest cavity. "It was destiny," Lixa insisted. "The prophecy was clear. The one who sleeps through fire shall awaken the gods of passion." "Right, that." Ray yawned. "Look, your client better hurry. I charge by the hour for mystical object viewings, and nap time costs extra." Nix's expression shifted subtly. "Interesting perspective. Most bearers throughout history have been somewhat more reverent about their role. Most bearers probably didn't have plans to sleep through the afternoon when cosmic destiny came calling," Ray countered. Before Nix could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared as red emergency lighting flooded the cabin. "What's happening?" Lixa demanded, drawing her weapon. Nix's face hardened. "We've been boarded." The door to the conference room burst open. Armed figures in crimson robes stormed in, weapons trained on Ray. "The bearer comes with us," their leader intoned. "The sphere must be cleansed in sacred fire." "Yeah, hard pass on the sacred fire," Ray said. instinctively backing away. The sphere in his chest began to pulse erratically, sending waves of heat through his body. What happened next occurred too quickly for Ray to process. As the cultist advanced, he stumbled backward, tripping over a chair. The sphere flared brilliantly as he fell, releasing a concussive blast of golden energy that threw the cultist against the walls with bone-crushing force. Silence fell. Ray blinked up at the ceiling, surprised to find himself unharmed. "What the hell was that?" he gasped. Lixa helped him to his feet, her eyes wide. "The sphere protected you." Nick stood amid the unconscious cultists, seemingly unaffected by the blast. She studied Ray with newfound interest. "Remarkable. You activated its defensive capabilities without conscious effort." "I didn't activate anything," Ray protested. "I just fell on my ass, which, for the record, I'm very good at." "Precisely," Nick said thoughtfully. "The sphere responds to your instincts, not your intentions. Most bearers try to control it through will and concentration. You just let it happen." "Story of my life," Ray muttered, examining the downed cultists. "So who's your client? Because I'm thinking this wasn't part of the plan." Nix's form suddenly shimmered, her features blurring and reforming. Where the diminutive noodle vendor had stood moments before, a tall, regal woman now appeared. Her skin was obsidian black with swirls of what looked like galaxies moving beneath the surface. Her eyes burned like twin suns. "I am the client," she announced in a voice that resonated at multiple frequencies simultaneously. "I am Nyx, eternal observer, keeper of cosmic balance." Ray stared, then turned to Lixa. "Did you know she could do that?" Lixa had fallen to her knees, head bowed. "Eternal observer," she whispered reverently. "The prophecies speak of your guidance." "Oh, great," Ray sighed. "More prophecies. Listen, eternal observer or whatever, can you get this thing out of my chest or not?" Nyx regarded him with amused interest. "You truly are an unusual bearer. No, I cannot remove the sphere, but I can teach you to understand it, and perhaps why it chose you. I'll settle for how to control it so it doesn't keep blowing stuff up when I trip," Ray said pragmatically. "That," Nyx nodded, "I can help with." Over the next week, Ray learned more about the chronosphere than he ever wanted to know. They remained aboard Nyx's ship, constantly moving to avoid cultists and other interested parties that somehow always managed to find them. Nyx explained that the sphere responded to Ray's emotional state and physical needs. His tendency to fall asleep in dangerous situations actually created a unique biofeedback loop with the artifact, allowing it to act independently to protect him. "Your perpetual hunger is also significant," Nyx observed as Ray devoured his third meal of the morning. "The sphere requires enormous energy to function. It feeds through you." "So it's a parasite," Ray grumbled through a mouthful of food. "Symbiote," Nyx corrected. "It gives as much as it takes." Despite his complaints, Ray discovered certain advantages to being the sphere's host. His endurance improved, minor injuries healed almost instantly, and occasionally, when he dozed off, he experienced vivid dreams of ancient civilizations and cosmic events, knowledge flowing directly from the sphere into his subconscious. His relationship with Lixa evolved as well. Though he stubbornly refused to acknowledge any husband by prophecy nonsense, he couldn't deny their growing connection. She was fierce, loyal, and possessed a dry wit that matched his own. Plus, she never complained about his eating habits or tendency to nap at inappropriate moments. One night, as the ship drifted through an isolated nebula, Lixa joined Ray in the observation lounge. The swirling cosmic gases created spectacular light displays outside the viewport. "Beautiful," she remarked, sitting beside him. "It's all right," Ray shrugged, though he'd been transfixed before she arrived. "I've seen better light shows on Thermin 7 during generator malfunctions." Lixa laughed, the sound surprisingly musical. "You never admit to appreciating beauty, do you?" Appreciation requires effort, Ray replied with a half smile. I'm conserving energy. Her expression grew serious. The observer believes we're ready to proceed to the next phase. The sphere has stabilized within you. Great. What's the next phase? Please say removal surgery. Not exactly. Lixa hesitated. There's a sacred ritual from my people. It might help you forge a deeper connection with the sphere, gain more conscious control over it. Ray narrowed his eyes suspiciously. What kind of ritual? It's called the Triad of Unity, Lixa explained. 3 trials that prove worthiness: the yawn, the burger, and the closeness. Those sound suspiciously specific to my personal habits. Lixa's violet skin darkened slightly. A blush, Ray realized. The ancient texts are often metaphorical, but in this case, they align perfectly with your natural tendencies. And what exactly does closeness entail? Ray asked, though he suspected the answer. Intimate connection, Lixa said simply, between bearer and witness. Ray studied her for a long moment. Let me get this straight. According to your convenient prophecy, we need to eat burgers, take a nap, and then be intimate, all to help me control this thing in my chest? Essentially, yes. And this is definitely a real ritual, not something you're making up because we've been stuck on this ship for a week. The Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion loomed over Nebulon Prime like a metal predator, its massive shadow darkening half the planet's surface. Inside the command center, Supreme Emperor Terran studied the tactical display with growing frustration. Still no sign of the bearer? He demanded, voice echoing through the cavernous bridge. The intelligence officer swallowed nervously. No, Your Supremacy. The chronosphere's energy signature remains elusive. Terran slammed his fist on the console, cracking its surface. He no longer resembled the scrappy cargo container dweller who had once shared drinks with Ray Dorman. Power had transformed him. Cybernetic enhancements gleamed along his jawline, and his eyes had been replaced with optical implants that glowed an unnerving crimson. Find him, Terrans hissed. I didn't claw my way from that garbage heap on Thermin 7 to lose the greatest power in the universe to a man who considers napping a career. Across the galaxy, aboard Nyx's vessel, Ray woke with a start. The chronosphere pulsed against his sternum, warm and insistent. Beside him, Lixa stirred, her violet skin luminescent in the dim cabin light. Another dream? She asked, propping herself on one elbow. Ray nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. Terrans, he's looking for us. Since completing the Triad of Unity ritual 3 weeks ago, Ray's connection to the sphere had deepened dramatically. The artifact no longer felt foreign. It had become an extension of himself, responding to his thoughts and emotions with unsettling precision. His dreams had become prophetic, offering glimpses of threats before they materialized. Your former neighbor grows desperate, observed Nyx, appearing in the doorway without warning. The Eternal Observer had an annoying habit of materializing exactly when Ray wanted privacy. His forces have decimated 3 systems searching for you. Ray groaned, sitting up. Remind me again why we can't just hide in some uninhabited corner of space until he dies of old age. Because the sphere has awakened fully within you, Nyx explained for what felt like the 100th time. Its energy signature grows stronger daily. Soon, no place in this reality will conceal you. Great, Ray muttered. So my choices are confront a psychotic cyborg emperor or become a cosmic lighthouse that attracts every power-hungry maniac in the galaxy. Essentially, Nyx confirmed with frustrating calm. Lixa squeezed Ray's hand. You're ready. The ritual worked. Your control over the sphere improves daily. Control is a strong word for sometimes it doesn't explode when I sneeze, Ray countered, but he returned the pressure of her fingers. Their relationship had evolved into something he couldn't quite define, deeper than partnership but unburdened by the traditional expectations that had always sent him running for the nearest exit. Nix's expression grew serious. "We've evaded Imperial forces long enough. The time has come to confront Terrans." Or, Ray suggested hopefully, we could find an even better hiding place. How about dimensionally adjacent realities? Those seem cozy. "Ray," Lixa said softly, "people are dying while we run." That sobered him instantly. For all his complaining, Ray had seen the reports. Entire colonies reduced to ash as Terran scorched his way across the galaxy, hunting for the sphere. The man who had once been his drinking buddy had become a monster, obsessed with power. "Fine," Ray sighed, climbing out of bed and reaching for his yellow jacket, the one constant in his rapidly changing life. "But I want it on record that this is a terrible plan." "Noted," Nix said with the ghost of a smile. "Now prepare yourself. We make for the Nebulon system." The plan, as far as Ray understood it, was elegantly simple. Fly directly into the heart of Imperial territory, infiltrate Terran's flagship, and somehow convince a power-mad dictator to stop hunting them. What could possibly go wrong? "Everything," Ray muttered as they approached Nebulon Prime in a stolen Imperial shuttle. "Everything can go wrong." Lixa, disguised in Imperial officer's regalia, piloted the vessel with confident precision. "The clearance codes are working," she reported. "Docking Bay 7 has granted us access." "And what's our plan once we're aboard? Walk up to Terrans and ask him nicely to stop being an evil overlord?" Ray tugged at the uncomfortable Imperial uniform Nix had somehow procured for him. The collar chafed against his neck, and the chronosphere created an obvious bulge beneath the fabric. "We offer him what he wants," Nix replied from the co-pilot seat. The Eternal Observer had assumed a more humanoid appearance, though her skin still swirled with cosmic patterns. "You? Excuse me?" Ray choked. "You're using me as bait?" "More as a distraction," Lixa clarified, guiding the shuttle into the massive docking bay. "While Terrans focuses on you, we neutralize his command staff and seize control of the flagship systems." "Fantastic," Ray groaned. "And if he just shoots me on sight?" "The sphere will protect you," Nix said confidently. "It has chosen you as its bearer. It cannot allow you to perish before your purpose is fulfilled." "My purpose," Ray echoed skeptically. "Right. Save the galaxy, reshape reality, all that cosmic destiny garbage. Has it occurred to anyone that the sphere might have terrible judgment? It picked a professional napper as its champion." "Perhaps," Nix said thoughtfully. "That is precisely why it chose you." Before Ray could question that cryptic statement, the shuttle touched down with a gentle shudder. Imperial troops surrounded the vessel immediately, weapons at the ready. Lixa turned to Ray, her silver eyes intense. "Remember, let the sphere guide you. Don't fight it." "Easy for you to say," Ray muttered. "It's not growing out of your chest." The shuttle's ramp descended with a pneumatic hiss. Taking a deep breath, Ray stepped forward to meet his destiny, or more likely, his doom. The journey to the command bridge passed in a blur of sterile corridors and security checkpoints. The forged credentials Nix had provided identified Ray as an intelligence officer delivering critical information directly to the Emperor. The ruse worked flawlessly until they reached the final security station outside the bridge. "Identification scan required," announced the cybernetically enhanced guard, gesturing to a biometric scanner. Ray's heart sank. No forged credentials would fool a direct biometric analysis. He shot a panicked glance at Lixa, who subtly reached for her concealed weapon. The chronosphere chose that moment to pulse beneath his uniform, sending a wave of warmth through his body. Without conscious thought, Ray found himself stepping forward and placing his hand on the scanner. The machine hummed, then chimed approval. "Identity confirmed. Lieutenant Commander Vorn, Imperial Intelligence," the guard intoned. "You may proceed." Ray didn't question the miracle as they were ushered onto the bridge, a vast, cathedral-like space dominated by a throne positioned before an enormous viewport. Terrence sat there, his enhanced eyes fixed on the planet below. He didn't turn as they approached. "Your Supremacy," the guard announced. "Intelligence officers with critical information regarding the bearer." Now Terrence turned, his cybernetic eyes scanning them clinically. Recognition flickered across his features as he focused on Ray. "Leave us," he commanded. The bridge crew and guards filed out without question, sealing the doors behind them. For a long moment the former neighbors stared at each other. Then Terrence laughed, a harsh, metallic sound. "Ray Dorman," he said, descending from his throne. "The universe has a perverse sense of humor, doesn't it? The most powerful artifact in existence chooses the man who once traded me expired food rations for bootleg Arcturian whiskey." Ray shrugged, affecting nonchalance despite his racing pulse. "What can I say? I've always been lucky." "Luck," Terrence spat. "I made my own fortune. Clawed my way up from nothing while you napped your life away in that pathetic container." He circled Ray like a predator. "Now remove your uniform. Show me the sphere." Ray glanced at Lixa, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. According to plan, Nick should now be disabling the ship's security systems. All he needed to do was keep Terrence talking. "First," Ray said, "I want some answers. How did you go from my neighbor to Supreme Emperor in 3 years?" Terrence smiled coldly. "Ambition, vision, the willingness to seize opportunity." He tapped his cybernetic jaw. "And significant personal upgrades. Now stop stalling. Show me the sphere." With deliberate slowness, Ray unbuttoned his uniform jacket, revealing the golden artifact embedded in his chest. It pulsed with light, responding to the tension in the room. Terran's eyes widened with naked hunger. "Magnificent!" he breathed, reaching toward it. The sphere flared at his approach, forcing him back. "Temperamental, isn't it?" Terrence remarked, unperturbed. "No matter. My scientists have developed an extraction procedure. It will likely kill you, of course, but sacrifices must be made for progress." "Here's a counteroffer," Ray suggested. "You stop your galactic rampage, I stop running, and we all go our separate ways. Maybe get drinks sometime for old time's sake." Terrence laughed again. Still the same Ray, always looking for the easy way out. His expression hardened. "But I didn't conquer half the galaxy by compromising." He pressed a button on his wrist device. Hidden panels in the bridge slid open, revealing armed guards with weapons trained on Ray and Lixa. "Did you really think I wouldn't detect your little infiltration?" Terrence sneered. "Your eternal observer is currently being contained in a transdimensional field. As for you two—" He gestured and the guards advanced. In that moment of crisis, Ray felt an unusual sensation, not fear but a profound calm. The sphere warmed against his skin, and time seemed to slow around him. Without conscious decision, he yawned widely. The simple, reflexive action triggered something within the artifact. Golden light erupted from his chest, expanding outward in a shock wave that knocked the guards off their feet. Terrence staggered but remained standing, his cybernetic enhancements allowing him to resist the blast. "Impressive," he acknowledged, "but futile." He drew an energy weapon from his robes. "The sphere will be mine." As Terrence fired, something extraordinary happened. Ray's yellow jacket, the tattered garment he'd worn for years, suddenly shimmered with golden light, absorbing the energy blast completely. The familiar fabric rippled like liquid metal before settling back into its normal appearance. "What the hell?" Ray gasped, clutching the jacket in astonishment. Lixa's eyes widened in recognition. "The mantle of the dreaming gods," she whispered. "The prophecy spoke of it. A garment that appears humble but contains unimaginable power." "My jacket?" Ray stared at the worn fabric in disbelief. "My smelly, onion-stained jacket is a cosmic relic." Terrans fired again, and again the jacket absorbed the blast. Enraged, he threw aside the weapon and charged forward, cybernetic arms extending to grab Ray. As they collided, the sphere flared brilliantly. The contact between Emperor and Bearer triggered a catastrophic energy release. Reality itself seemed to tear around them, the bridge dissolving into swirling patterns of light and darkness. Ray felt himself falling, not physically but through layers of consciousness, deeper into the heart of the sphere's power. Images flooded his mind, ancient civilizations rising and falling, cosmic beings shaping reality, the birth and death of stars. He saw the lineage of previous bearers, powerful beings who had carried the burden of the sphere through eons, and at the end of that illustrious chain stood himself, Ray Dorman, professional underachiever. The revelation hit him with stunning clarity. The sphere hadn't chosen him by mistake. It had selected him precisely because of who he was, someone who desired nothing, who sought no power, who wanted only the simplest pleasures of existence. After millennia of ambitious bearers who had tried to bend the sphere to their will, it had chosen the one being who had no interest in controlling it. Reality reassembled itself around him. Ray found himself hovering several feet above the bridge floor, suffused with golden light. Terrans knelt below, cybernetic implants sparking and failing as the sphere's energy overwhelmed their circuits. Around them, Imperial troops stared in awe and terror. "The ancient reboot code has been activated," Lixa announced in a reverent tone. "The chronosphere has awakened fully." Ray felt the truth of her words resonating through his entire being. The power to remake reality flowed through him. He could feel the fabric of existence itself waiting to be reshaped according to his will. He could create utopia or destruction, rewrite the laws of physics, unmake and remake the universe. Everyone watched him, breaths held in anticipation of cosmic transformation. Lixa gazed up at him with silvery eyes full of wonder. Terrans remained on his knees, face twisted in jealous rage. Even Nyx, who had somehow freed herself from captivity, observed from the doorway with solemn attention. Ray considered his options. He could end conflict throughout the galaxy, eliminate suffering, create a perfect reality where no one would ever want for anything. Instead, he yawned. The assembled crowd gasped as Ray slowly descended to the floor, the golden aura still surrounding him. With casual indifference, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a slightly squashed burger he'd stashed there before the mission. A lounge chair materialized beneath him as he sat down, taking a large bite. "I'll deal with all this tomorrow," he announced between chews. "Right now, I'm going to eat this burger, then I'm going to take a nap. You guys cool with that?" The absurdity of the situation, a godlike being prioritizing fast food and sleep over cosmic restructuring, left everyone speechless. Then, remarkably, one of the Imperial guards began to laugh. The sound spread, building to a crescendo of released tension and disbelief. Terran stared in incomprehension. "You have the power to reshape existence," he sputtered, "and you choose to eat." Ray shrugged, taking another bite. "Priorities, man. Universe has been around for billions of years. It can wait another day." The next few weeks reshaped galactic civilization, though not in ways anyone had anticipated. Ray, accepting his role with reluctant grace, established a cosmic temple palace where his primary activities remained eating and sleeping. Yet somehow, when petitioners arrived with problems, solutions materialized, often in the form of Ray mumbling advice while half asleep that turned out to be profoundly wise. Lixa became his high priestess, interpreting his sleepy proclamations and managing the growing organization of followers who embraced Ray's philosophy of cosmic laziness. Terrans, stripped of his cybernetic enhancements, became the temple's head chef, his ambition redirected toward creating the perfect burger. Throughout the galaxy, Beings of all species began adopting elements of Ray's lifestyle, believing that his approach represented some profound spiritual truth. Meditation centers taught the sacred yawn. Restaurants served bearers' burgers. Sleep became not just necessary, but aspirational. What no one suspected, except perhaps Nyx, who watched from the shadows with knowing amusement, was that the entire saga had been broadcast across the galaxy as the highest-rated reality program in history. Sleep or die. Billions of viewers had followed Ray's journey from cargo container to cosmic godhood, turning his catchphrases and habits into cultural phenomena. 6 months after the confrontation on the Imperial flagship, Ray and Lixa lounged on the beach of an artificial paradise world. The chronosphere still protruded from Ray's chest, but he had grown so accustomed to it that he barely noticed its presence anymore. Lixa adjusted her position on the lounger beside him, her violet skin glistening in the perfect sunshine. "Have you considered," she asked tentatively, "using the sphere's power to address some of the galaxy's remaining problems? There are still conflicts in the outer systems, resource shortages on frontier worlds." Ray took a long sip from his colorful drink before answering. "You know what I've learned from all this cosmic destiny business?" He gestured lazily at the idyllic scene around them. "Sometimes the greatest wisdom is just getting enough sleep. The universe managed for billions of years before I came along. It'll figure things out." Lixa smiled, recognizing the profound truth hidden within his seemingly casual response. The chronosphere had indeed chosen wisely, a bearer who understood that sometimes the most powerful action was non-action, that existence didn't need constant intervention to thrive. "Besides," Ray added with a grin, pulling her closer, "I've got more important things to focus on right now." The sphere pulsed gently against his chest as he closed his eyes, content in the knowledge that the universe was exactly as it should be, imperfect, chaotic, and absolutely worth taking a nap in. High above the beach, hidden from view, Nyx smiled as she adjusted the cosmic cameras capturing the scene for the season finale. Ratings had never been better, and for once, an eternal observer could report that all was well with reality, thanks to the universe's most unlikely hero. "And cut," she whispered to herself as Ray began to snore softly beneath the perfect sun. "Dear listeners, I hope that among the sea of serious narratives out there, you've enjoyed this light-hearted romp with its gentle irony and affectionate satire of epic sci-fi tropes. Sometimes we all need a reminder that even in the vastness of the cosmos, it's the simple pleasures, like a good nap or a tasty burger, that make existence worthwhile." Ray's journey from professional underachiever to cosmic deity wasn't just about saving the universe, but about the universe, perhaps saving itself by choosing the most unlikely hero possible. In a genre often filled with chosen ones destined for greatness, I wanted to explore what might happen if destiny chose someone who wanted nothing to do with it. Thank you for spending time with Ray, Lixa, and their bizarre cosmic adventure. In a universe of infinite possibilities, I'm grateful you chose to explore this particular reality with me. Wishing you comfortable naps, satisfying meals, and just enough cosmic destiny to keep life interesting. Until next time, the author.